Welcome to Life by Design, episode 313. Welcome to Life by Design. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Richardson. I'm joined today by my colleague, Dr. Cratio Jug.
Happy to be here as always.
Yes, we are creators of Life by Design with many locations worldwide. Each week on the show, you like that, right?
I love that.
On the show, we discuss the principles and the practice of Life by Design. Today, we're talking about something that I know is evident throughout social media. It's something that I know that you've seen over and over again. I've seen it. I've never really thought about it in this sense, so it's interesting that you brought it up. So I'm interested and excited to talk about it today. And it's about this idea of people, having a Facebook diet or a social media diet and getting off the gram and, what that actually means. And I think that, I'd never thought about it. I just thought, oh, that's great. Get off social media, because I think there's lots of good things about getting off social media in the sense that it probably frees up your time, especially if you have an addiction. All those things are good. But, if you start to go deeper, why are you getting off? And you brought up the point that a lot of people are getting off because they don't do well with the idea of, comparing themselves to other people. And you had some thoughts about that, Cratio.
I think I have lots of thoughts about it, actually. It's nature, right? Like our brain is designed. One of the reasons that we are where we are is because as humans, we were really good at comparing and contrasting. This is one of the ways that we formed concepts, right? And one of the ways, if you watch your children learn, the way that your children learn things like dog versus cat and table versus chair, their brains are good at comparing the similarities of a table, whether it's height, width, length, legs, 3 legs, 1 leg in the middle, and then contrasting the things that are not the same. And that's how we learn these different concepts. So it's our human nature to want to compare.
Right.
Just things get really sucky for us. And I think we've all been there, when you hop on the phone and everyone seems to be, doing better and wealthier and better looking and on vacation, and kids are better, and you're like, man, I start to feel really shitty about myself now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that people see a lot. And I think what your point, though, Cratio, is, getting off social media maybe isn't really solving the problem.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I've thought a lot about it. It's like I said, it's human nature to compare. So if you're constantly trying to compare yourself with somebody, getting off of social media will not fix the problem. Right. Because you'll always, like, this isn't old. Like, I remember, growing up and my parents would make comments about like what other people had or what other people were doing, right? Like, so they were comparing themselves. This is not something that is going to change. But I mean, if social media, the actual stuff itself, I mean, if you're more negative when you're on it, then yeah, getting off is gonna be a great idea. So I think there's two things at play. At the baseline level, you really have to be self-aware of what the actual underlying problem is. If it's a self-esteem, or if it's more of a personal thing, then you might just be fixing a symptom versus actually going after the cause by getting off of social media. But if it's But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. You don't need social media in your life. Like, you really don't need it. I think it's great. Yeah.
Well, so let's go back to the idea that comparison is part of nature, because I think that's a new concept for people. You briefly talked about it. Can you go more in depth on that and how that relates to, how we learn and why it's actually something that's important?
Sure. I mean, like I said, the most important thing is, as a human, our nature is to use our brain. We're the most intellectual. We're the only animals capable of reason, and we're the only animals capable of transferring knowledge from one another. Right? Like, dogs don't write books, cats don't record podcasts.
They play poker, though, right?
They do play poker. The dogs play poker. What do the cats play? I don't know.
I can't remember.
Right. So I mean. And when something's our nature, if we try to fight against it, it's just always really bad consequences. Right. We have these moments in human history where humans try to practice something that is just not within their nature, and it always ends up being bad news. So to try to change your brain against something that got you to where you are, is bad. It's just a bad idea. So you have to understand that about yourself. And the only reason that I'm telling you this is because you're not broken. You know, you're not broken because your
Right.
brain wants to compare you to somebody else. Like we just did a CrossFit workout today.
Right.
It's normal and natural to see your score and to compare yourself with other people to see where you're scored.
Right.
Right? That's just you're trying to judge your level of health and fitness compared to people who you have deemed are healthier and fitter potentially than you. Now, the problem comes when you start to philosophize or moralize the
Right.
difference.
Yeah,
Right?
I
So it's
think.
Nate. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think you're kind of getting right to the point, and that's that, the whole idea of comparison isn't bad. It's just part of human nature, as we talked
That's what I'm
about.
saying. Yeah.
It's more about how you interpret the comparison, right? Do I look at somebody who can lift more weight than me, or run faster, or has doing something that I'm not able to do, and do I look at that and do I feel jealousy? Do I feel disappointment in myself? Do I feel all of these emotions? Or do I simply look at that as a factual state and say, wow, that's great. That person did better. I would hope, and I know this is something that personally I try to strive for. And if it's something I would like to accomplish myself, I look at that as a source of inspiration, not as a source of, myself being in a negative state or something I wasn't able to do or something that, I'm not good enough. It's simply that person achieved that, good for them. If they can achieve it, then maybe I can do that too.
Well, yeah. So this is really the crux of this issue here now, and you're getting to it, which is the philosophy, right? Which is
Right.
our upbringing, which is the system in which we grew up in. So, I mean, in a way, it's not your fault. You've grown up in a system that's already taught you to value other people's ability. Other people are more important than you, right?
Right.
Others' happiness is more important. Other people are more important. We're supposed to help everyone. We're supposed to love everybody, unconditional love. So the fact that we've grown up in a place where we're taught to value other people above ourselves is a tough mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when now you're combining your nature, which is comparative, right? Your brain works by comparing things, but the philosophy that you're brought up in is that other people are supposed to be more important than you. So
Right.
now you're combining these two things, and I don't necessarily think it's you're not broken, is what I'm saying, if your first inclination is towards envy, jealousy, or anger when you're feeling less than somebody else because you're comparing yourself to
Right.
somebody else. Right?
So,
So go ahead.
solutions. What do we do? What
Oh,
do we do about this? I mean,
sure.
we could talk forever about this, and I think you're making a great point. And I think the whole concept of our comparative nature is new for people, and even for me, I never really thought about it like that. So, what do we do? What do we do? Obviously, just getting off social media is not the solution if there's an underlying problem, because we're going to
Mm-hmm.
look for comparisons elsewhere. We're going to have the same
Mm-hmm.
experience when somebody walks by, and we see how they look, say compared to how we look. Where do we start? What's the next step?
Sure. So, I mean, self-awareness is always the starting point for this stuff.
Right.
The first question that you're gonna, I mean, and again, we've already started this. We're already helping you become self-aware. This is the exact same process that we've been through. You have to
Mm-hmm.
know how your brain works. You have to know the situation in which you grew up in. But now you have to ask yourself whether that's true, right? So now you actually have to think rationally about your surroundings, and you have to think to yourself, okay, well, I understand that this is what everyone's been saying my whole life, that other people are more important than I am, but is this true?
Right.
Right? Like, and of course, I don't believe that it is. So once you start to look at these things rationally, they start to melt away. And the other thing you need to start to do is fill your time with things that are absolutely enthralling and exciting for you to do. Because once you're actually doing something that brings you immense joy and pleasure, it's shocking how little time you have for everything else because you're
Right.
just happy doing what it is that you're doing.
Right. Yeah. Actually, I mean, we were talking about this in the pre-show, but it really is amazing, as people are, going through this process. And I've said this, and, Dane and I have talked about this lots of times. It's like, it's amazing that people have time to do other stuff, to worry about what other people are thinking, what other people are doing, when you're so hyper focused on yourself and your vision and your family and the things that you care about and they're part of your value system. I think of myself personally, and I can only comment personally, I don't have time to even think about these other things simply because I'm focused on the things that are most important to me. And, I think you really nailed it. And I think we'll end on this because I think this is a great place for people to start with the whole concept of awareness, Cratio. And that's asking themselves, is it true? And that's the best question, right? Because it's really what we're trying to get to, is the reinforcing this idea that reality exists. And the first thing you need to identify is this even real? Is this something that's true? Is this something that I'm manufacturing, creating? Is my underlying philosophy, my upbringing, are these things clouding the way that I look at something? Is it true? And if it's true, then you can respond appropriately from there and deal with the effects of that.
Can I, let me just interject something there. I think
Please.
an interesting experiment for somebody, if they're really interested in doing this,
Mm-hmm.
would be to think of something that they're absolutely certain about. You know, I don't know, Bitcoin's going to go back up. You know, the world is heading to overpopulation. Whatever belief you hold,
Mm-hmm.
that is, you know, 100%, you would actually write a check for $100,000 because you're that for a minute. Find somebody who holds the counter belief and spend some time interacting with that person and see why they came to a completely opposite conclusion than you did.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's actually a great experiment, one that I'm going to think about for myself, Horatio, and come back and talk about this on a future show. But guys, if you're listening in and you've made it to the end, hopefully you did, everything you need to know is going to be in the show notes at lifebydesign.com/podcast. You can actually grab the Think by Design manual for free. And we talk about this week after week after week. It's such a powerful resource. And it's something that is just fundamental to a lot of this thinking that sets the stage for all the results that you want to get. And you can join in on the free 30-day Think by Design challenge as well. And you can see Horatio's mug every day for 30 days if you want to. So check that out. And thank you for joining the drive to 1 million families worldwide living life by design.